How is it all going so far? What's the real juice? How is it?
Okay, it's good. It's challenging. Fundraising was hard. We kind of set out to do a relatively big pre-seed. I was of the mindset of go big or go home, go raise almost £1 million, get enough to really prove that your product works in the market. So I probably spent 3 months full-time fundraising,
Wow.
which is intense because you take yourself away from the business. And, I know people doing seed and Series A rounds will say 3 months is nothing. We were just in a strategy day and someone was saying take 6 to do the next round. But you feel quite disconnected from your business when you're fundraising, which is difficult. So that was hard. And then I guess now it's just hiring. It's bringing on the right people to grow the team, and that's a scary thing.
How difficult was fundraising? Were there a lot of no's?
A lot of no's, and being totally transparent, it was really the first time I ever got no's. I did well at school, had an unconditional offer at uni, had my job at KPMG lined up. I'd applied for a job at McKinsey and they said no, and I cried for about 2 weeks.
Right.
On reflection, I am so not a McKinsey person, but I then had my job, then I got my other job. So I really, floated through school and education without no's. So I didn't think I was a resilient person at the start. I was so offended that the first no, I got into my bed and I cried.
So what happened? Did you receive this no over a phone call? Was it in person? Was it over an email? And what was your response as you read it? Did you call someone? Did you think about it?
Well, do you know what it was? I think the first no we really got when it came to fundraising was when we applied for the Innovate UK grant. And I was reading the feedback and I was so annoyed because they never met me. I was like, why couldn't I have pitched it to you rather than reading an application?
Yeah.
And that I got really upset by, because I think there was a lot of hype around getting the grant and we were actually super close, but just one assessor just didn't understand it. And it was more frustrating than sadness. But then my first investor rejection, I just took it so personally. I just thought, why don't they want to invest in me? Because everyone tells you that at the start they're investing in you, they're investing in the founder. So then it's very hard to detach yourself and not take it personally, even though they've said all the reasons are because of the business model. But I read a lot of books around it, around kind of resilience and rejection as a founder. And actually the most important thing is to turn those negatives into positive learning experiences, understand why that person said no, so that you can make sure when you go into the next conversation, you're already bringing it up as you may think this, but actually we've already got it covered.
And so what did the 5th, 6th and 7th rejection look like? Were they easy? Did they still feel a little bit personal?
I wouldn't say it ever gets easy. I think that in my accelerator program, they use this expression, which I love, is that no one will tell you your baby's ugly, right? And it takes me, I don't know if you've heard it before, but most babies aren't cute.
They just aren't. I'm so glad somebody said it.
It's just a fact. But when they're your baby or your cousin or your niece or your nephew, they are adorable.
Yeah.
Right? But no one would ever turn around to a mother and say your baby's not cute. And that's really what being a startup founder is. You have this idea, it's your baby, and your friends and family are going to tell you it's amazing and it's brilliant. And even, your controversial cousin will tell you it's great. So then to be told that your baby is ugly, you've got to take it. You've got to take it personally.
Yeah.
But then you realize that actually, in the same way that, there are people out there that would admit a baby's ugly, there are people out there that will say your startup's not great. So you just have to take it on the chin and just move on. You will find people, and you read the horror stories about people saying no to Uber and Airbnb, and you're like, oh, I'm not that special.
Yeah, I think Gary Vaynerchuk has that framed. He said no to Uber. He's now got that framed in his office and he raves about it the whole time. It's like, it was a learning for me.
Yeah.
It was a learning. It's like, okay, nice.
I heard about an investor, I can't remember which one, they have on their portfolio page on their website all the lists of companies that are unicorns that they rejected, and I love that. I love that transparency. It's like, we said no. It's great.
That's wicked. I like that. And I love the comparison about the ugly babies, because it's just so true. But then hearing that for the first time when you're surrounded by yes men and everyone's like, yeah, it's great, and then you have somebody just say it really directly, whether it's couched within some nice fluff or whether it's just to the point, it's still a different type of sentiment. And it hurts, especially when it feels personal. So I didn't have it from the investor perspective, but I've got it from the client perspective, from the potential team members who then don't end up joining and they share their reasons. And it can always feel that way. But I think it's so much nicer long term to actually give that to other people. And I've shared feedback with people recently where I felt horrible doing so, but I realized like if you can, if you respect somebody enough, then you'll put yourself in the uncomfortable position of giving them the feedback that they really need to hear to progress in their career. And so I think it's really similar in this case.
100%.
Yeah. But eventually you got to the yes, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah. So we closed our round, I guess if you say closed around back in February, there was a lot of legal yo-yoing. But yeah, it's all done. And the VC that led the round, their kind of backgrounds in retail, which also feels great because it shows that they get the product probably more than most. And we had some great angels come in. So yeah, it's super exciting. Nice. Now I can just get on with it.
What was the legal yo-yoing like? Was it a nightmare?
I think so, because as a person, I get anxious when things are out of my control. I like to be in control. I always have. So the fact that I couldn't control how quickly their lawyers were going to reply or what our lawyers were saying because I didn't understand, half of the words in the contract, that made me feel, quite on edge, quite anxious. But I guess my lawyers gave me really good reassurance. Yeah. So yeah, I've got to give them credit for that.
So help me understand what that legal landscape looks like for you. Because for me, we have three types of contracts. It's contracts for employees, contracts for clients, and then NDAs essentially, or kind of short-term contracts for contractors.
Yeah.
But in your case, you've got people who own equity in the business. You've got co-founders who have kind of equity options, and then potentially a wider option pool. You've got investors, accelerators, all of that jazz. So what are the different components?
Yeah, so I think when you're raising, you have an investor agreement, a shareholders agreement that all kind of encompass all of that stuff. So that's why they're quite complicated. Like our documents were 50, 60 pages long. And most of the stuff I didn't understand, but it's all there to protect you as founders. I think you often hear these expression of founder-friendly legal agreements because you can sometimes get investors that just want the best for them and don't actually think about the founders. But then as founders, you're not going to accept that. So the legal yo-yoing is we want this, we want that, you get this, you get that type of stuff, as you would happen in any kind of legal arrangement. But no, got there in the end.